Welcome, dear parents and educators, to the Innovative Learning Spaces webinar. Most of us spend time setting up the space that we or our children have to work or study in, as it impacts both our engagement with the task and overall motivation level. We, at Heritage, take it a step further. We consider space as the third teacher, where it not only facilitates the learning process, but is also actively utilized in creating learning experiences. In this webinar, we will be sharing how that can be done. Also, with learning having shifted to the online space over the last 10 months, we will be sharing some best practices that can make virtual classrooms inviting and engaging for the students. We'll also be discussing how parents can create learning nooks and corners in the house that children enjoy spending their time in while learning. Participants can post their questions in the Q&A section, and we will take up as many of those as possible in the last 20 minutes of the webinar. Our expert for the day is Angela Mee Lee, a senior education consultant who has done a lot of work in designing and learning spaces across schools in Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, and India. She has also worked closely with the heritage schools in various capacities. I would now like to invite Angela to take the session forward.
So welcome to Inspirations of Reggio Emilia. So just thinking about these words here, for children's rights to relationship, autonomy, creativity, and learning. And out of that, when you look at Reggio Emilia, you hear about this book called The 100 Languages and also a poem. But what makes Reggio, Reggio? They think about the image of the child. And I won't go into that into a great extent because that's a whole different webinar. The priority of the children with special rights, that all children are children, no matter how they learn. We all learn in different ways. The environment as the third teacher, and that children and teachers are co-learners. So in fact, they do use the word teachers, but they also use researchers and facilitators rather than teacher. And jumping back to the image of the child is that they value the child as competent from the moment that they are born with many ways to express themselves. So as I said, we're going to focus now on the environment and the spaces. So this is a quote that I found from Margie Carter, who has written a number of books, Making Your Environment the Third Teacher. And one of the things I wanted to highlight here was that when any of us find ourselves in environments that are soothing and full of wonder and you feel comfortable, you want to stay there. You want to stay there, you want to lie down, you just want to have some time there. And that's what we're wanting for our children. And also for the people who work within those spaces, for everyone to benefit from the space and the environment that you've created. This is a quick shot to the creative arts space that I created at ASB during my third year there. This was the music room. Actually, it was the art room, but this is where music and art took place. We're going to look at a poem called The 100 Languages. It's really small to see these words here. So we're going to look and listen to a video of The 100 Languages. And at the end, I'd like you to type into the chat how this video made you feel. Let's have a listen.
100 languages. The child is made of 100. The child has 100 languages. 100 hands, 100 thoughts, 100 ways of thinking, of playing, of speaking. 100 are always 100 ways of listening, of marveling, of loving. 100 joys for singing and understanding. 100 worlds to discover. 100 worlds to invent. 100 worlds to dream. The child has 100 languages. 100 and 100 and 100 more! But they they steal 99. The school and the culture separate the head from the body. They tell the child to think without hands, to do without head, to listen and not to speak, to understand without joy, to love and to love. Only at Easter and Christmas they tell the child to discover the world already there. In the 100 they steal 99. They tell the child that work and play, reality and fantasy, science and imagination, sky and earth, reason and dream are things that do not belong together. And thus they tell the child that the 100 is not there. The child says, "No way, the 100 is there!"
So, but for now, absolutely, this is what we want to be doing, is giving children right from the beginning many different ways to express themselves. Here are some of the 100 ways that maybe we might choose to process our learning. Visual, oral, verbal, physical, logical, social, interpersonal, learning with others, and intrapersonal, wanting to work on your own. So now we're coming to making connections. We're going to make some connections with what we've been looking at in this lesson. First, we're going to listen to this read aloud. And maybe you can tell me afterwards what your wonderings are in the chat.
Hi, Akila here. Today we're going to read a book called Beautiful Oops by Barney Salzberg. Oops, a torn piece of paper. Oh no.
A big dog down.
It's just the beginning.
We got the dog.
It's a crocodile's mouth. Every spill. Oh no. Oops. Has lots. There's a family of dogs.
Okay.
And lots. Family of birds. Of possibilities.
Okay.
Here's an elephant. Bent paper. Oh, oops. Is something to celebrate. A little drip of paint. Oops. Let your imagination run wild. This looks like a pig, and these two are wheels. A scrap of paper, oops, can be fun to play with. What's this?
Dog.
It's a dog. A smudge and a smear. Oops. Can make magic appear.
A
What's
fish.
this? What's this?
Rabbit.
What's this?
Fish. Oopsie.
A stain has potential if you play with its shape. And what's this?
Frog.
Frog. Holes in your paper
Seesaw.
are worth exploring. Wow, look at this. If you look through here,
Seesaw.
it says, see? When you think you made a mistake, oops. Think of it as an opportunity to make something beautiful.
The animal.
Animals. What's this?
Sheep. The ant.
So if we're thinking of building trust in our sessions, if you could type in the chat how you think this story would build trust during a session that you might have with children. How could this storybook build trust? So what I believe is that children should have access to a space that's called the atelier. And you can create this at school, in your classroom, and at home. This is how the Cambridge Dictionary defines atelier. The Merriam-Webster in Reggio, and my version, which is everybody needs to know what they believe in before you set up an atelier. Then that affects how you're going to set up the space. How are you going to physically set that up for children? That represents your philosophy. And then what do you do in that space when you have the physical environment set up? So one of the key points I wanted to mention here is that we must expand beyond the notion of room arrangements and rating scales. How can we make the experience for children warm and nurturing and intentional and purposeful? So in that same room that you saw at ASB, one of the key things to add is time for children, quiet time. They love it. So when we were in the physical space, this is what pause and reflect, which was quiet time, looked like. They had a choice. There is always choice in everything that they do. They could choose to use a whiteboard with a marker, use their idea journal, which is here, their own book, or read a storybook. But you had to find your own space and you had to have your voice off and just be focusing on your idea for pause and reflect. This is what pause and reflect looked like with KG. That previous photo was grade 1. And this is children's feedback on having pause and reflect. So pause and reflect is something that we have tried actually in our online teaching as well. Of course, it looks a little bit different, but we do allocate it to quiet time. So we are all there on the screen. There is quiet music. We know what the task is, and we're just together. We can put our screen down. So if I have my whiteboard here, I often put my screen down so they can see that I'm writing or creating or doing whatever, but I'm still here with you creating during this quiet time. So the next thing is the setup. This is for giving you concrete ideas about what you could set up in your home. I'm going to skip this. I think I know that time is of the essence, but let's come back to this quote here. This is from Ron Richard, who's from Project Zero. So let's just leave this quote. I might add this at the end. So as you're looking at these photos, I just want you to look at them, think about the photos, and wonder how you could include it in your classroom, at your school, or even at home. And thinking about creating experiences or provocations rather than setting up an activity. An activity implies that there's a means to an end. You have to have this finished product. An experience implies that it's a process of, that you finish it in your own time when you feel it's complete, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's an ongoing research experience that you want to be doing for as long as it needs to take. And that we are offering the materials to help enhance that. When you're setting up a space, set up some agreements. What do your agreements look like? You saw what agreements look like in the virtual lesson that we did. Here are some agreements that we use. Very simple. How can you be kind to the materials and to the people who are also using it? How can you be safe in this space? And how can we have fun? That's pretty much a no-brainer. And remembering that beautiful oops, that there's always one way to create something. Okay, I think I'm getting the wind up from Ruchi. Hold on, Ruchi, I'm just going to go through these photos and then we'll see. Okay, so here are some pictures of experiences or provocations that I have set up over the past few years, and maybe you'll be able to get some ideas for yourself. So this is whiteboard and marker. And when you give children the time and the space, they will create beautiful things. So I'm just flicking through these as ideas for you to take away, to maybe try. So if you're looking to start anywhere with creating experiences at home or at school, just begin. Begin small, begin slowly, and make sure you have agreements in place. So when you're home with your child or when you are at school, I think one of the key sentences here in this quote is being with children is a pedagogy of observing and listening to them and practicing the art of conversation, so that can lead to their own inquiries rather than if they pose a question or they make a statement and we know the answer, just to say, well, what are your thoughts on that? What made you think that way? If caterpillars come from eggs, maybe someone has said, this caterpillar has come from an egg. What makes you say that? And maybe they saw it, maybe they read it, maybe they're just guessing. So we need to be trying to zip it up as adults and really listening to what our children are telling us. They might not be telling us with their voices. They might be using other ways to tell us through building, through making things, through drawing or painting, through singing, through making stories. Stories is another way that they will process their thinking.
Getting attention of a child on a virtual platform is difficult. Is there any better way?
Better way. You know, I think it all comes down to like what I was sharing in the webinar today about building trust. And when you're building trust, you're building, I'm sort of just taking my glasses off now, you're building relationships. And I think that's key first. You can't, in this context, launch straight into the content. If the relationship is not there, the content is not going to be learned. So, and how is that trust going to be developed? Through storybooks like Beautiful Oops, through asking them to bring things that they love, that they know that they're going to get joy out of, through having movement breaks, through knowing that they have choice. Give the choice to children. If we are just mandating what they need to do, and adults don't like it either, being told what they have to do. Everybody loves to have a choice. So those are some ideas. Bringing in interesting storybooks that are going to have some sort of intentional message. Bring a toy, or bring, the other day I had a meeting with Ruchi and the other lovely ladies, and as they came in, I was wearing my Christmas gear. So, which I know many of you are probably doing, but that will bring joy. And then the children will go off running and get their own Christmas gear. And then we've already started the session together, dressed up. So, and they're already invested. They're looking to see what everybody else is wearing. So there has to be a bit of leeway there. I know there was a parent who didn't know what we were doing and saw that their child they didn't have a teddy bear. They had a Spider-Man helmet. And so they had the Spider-Man helmet here, and the mother took it away from him thinking, you can't have that. So they're little things. The relationships, building the relationships comes first before anything else. And then once there's a basic foundation there, then you can move on to the learning aspect, which takes time. Meenakshi, thank you so much. I hope so. Thank you.